Well, hello and welcome to our Thursday night digital campus. I'm here with my wife, Naomi.
I'm here with my husband, Rob.
And we are going to talk a little bit about marriage, which is something that we know a lot about. How long have we been married now?
I don't know.
I told him earlier it was 18 years. Aren't we coming up on 18? That sounds about right.
We are coming up on 18 years.
Yeah.
We have been married for 17 years.
17. And we've been together basically our whole lives. We fell in love when we were in high school. I was just so blown away by you, and eventually we started talking.
Right.
And but yeah, so we got married. We were in love. It was 2005. It was October 1. It was in Omaha, Nebraska. And man, I thought that marriage would be easier than it actually is. Do you think is marriage about what you expected? Harder, easier?
I don't even know if I knew what to expect from marriage. I knew I liked you. Mm-hmm. I knew I loved you.
Yeah.
And I knew marriage was a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know what they tell you in pre-marriage counseling, and
we did do pre-marriage counseling, which was a good idea.
Yeah.
I feel like we had a good head start, but still.
We got married before all of the personality tests became a thing.
Yes.
The Myers-Briggs, the Enneagram.
Yeah,
Gallup Strengths Finder.
We've learned a lot about each other through the years.
Yeah.
Like I know one of the things that was kind of a challenge is that we learned that, I'm very introverted and Naomi's very extroverted. Mm-hmm. So before, I was alone all the time. I had plenty of alone time. I just always wanted to be with Naomi, because we didn't live together. We weren't married, and we actually had a long distance relationship for,
3 and 4
3
years.
3.5 years or something.
4 years.
You were away in college. You came home for the summers,
years.
but so I was always just excited to see you and wanted to be around you whenever I got the chance. But then when we were married, I suddenly realized how much I craved alone time. Mm-hmm. And that's been kind of something that's been a challenge in our marriage, is that you would want to be around me, throughout the day and at night and in the evenings, and I would suddenly start to feel like, okay, like I love you, but I really need to be alone. Like I need to go do some things alone. I need to go for a walk alone. Another thing is, I like to go to bed really early. I kind of shut down at night. I'm not a very friendly, kind person, and
not after 9 p.m.
And most of our marriage, you come alive at night. You're ready to party. Yeah. Like you want to hang out. You want to talk. You want to talk about really like important things, and I'm just like, I'm just a terrible person to talk to.
At one point I did.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the important things as you learn in relationships, marriage, friendships, any kind of relationship, as you're learning how to be in a relationship with another person, you have to learn who they are. You have to learn and study and become an expert in who this person is and what they're all about, how they're wired, what that means when they're with your wiring. And I think that's one of the first things I realized, I'm going to say early on in marriage. I realized it, but I don't want to have anyone on the other side of this screen think that just because I know how to do these things doesn't mean I'm an expert yet at doing them. I have a great deal of work to do, and so does Rob, but I think one of the first things I realized with you was that you feel respected when you get to go off and be by yourself. And I don't know, someone else might not be married to an extrovert or an introvert. Every relationship has different combinations of people. But being married to an introvert and practicing the idea of learning who this person is, and not just who this person is when you get married, but who this person is, 5 years into marriage, 10 years into marriage. If you decide to have a family, who is this person when you add children to the recipe, and who is this person in different seasons of work and life, and it's always a learning process. So I'm never, ever done learning about Rob.
We've changed.
Yeah.
In 18 years,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and even the way you're an introvert changes throughout
Yeah.
our life. So I know that Rob feels respected, when I give him the space to be who he is, an introvert, and what that looks like in each season of
You've been good about letting me go to bed.
Yeah, what that looks like in each season of our marriage is different. Early on it looked like you taking more trips by yourself and, being able to go away for a week or a weekend, and somewhere in the middle of our marriage adding kids, that looked like getting away for a night, getting to go to bed at 9 and I don't bug you, right?
Yeah.
Right now we're in a different season, and being an introvert looks like you walking the dog alone.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Right?
Well, getting up early has really helped me, and having that time with myself. But one of the verses that I think has really helped me a lot just in marriage, and you may not know this verse. I mean, you may not know that this is a verse that I value, but 1 Peter 3:7. This is Peter, who was married, by the way, so he actually is speaking from a place of experience. In the same way, you husbands must give honor to your wives. Doesn't that sound nice? Must give honor to your wives. Treat your wife with understanding. I love that word, understanding. As you live together, she may be weaker than you are, but she is your equal partner in God's gift of new life. Treat her as you should, so that your prayers will not be hindered. So the thing I like about this verse, I just love the positive words. Give your wives honor. That's one of our family values, is to really treat other people with honor, like they're special, like they're made in the image of God, like they're important, like the way I speak to you, think about you, talk to you, treat you, hopefully. I don't always do it, but hopefully, I'm keeping in my mind, I need to honor you, and really care about you. And then I love this word, understanding. This has been kind of one of the big words in our relationship, is understanding. You're different than me. The Bible here says you're weaker.
You're different than me.
And I don't know what Peter's getting to with this word weaker.
Yeah, that could be.
It could be taken as a negative or like an insult.
I don't know. Yeah,
but
that could easily be.
But what I think of is you're more sensitive to words, than I am. And I've had to learn, to not try to argue with you and tell you, oh no, that's not what I meant. Or when you're telling me, hey, I didn't like that, or that hurt, or I don't like what you said, I've had to understand, like, okay, she's different than me. Like, and that's a good thing. Like, I want to be married to a woman. I want to be married to somebody who's different than me. I don't want to be married to just exact same thing as I am. There's certain things that bother you that don't bother me. You and I, we think different and we react to things in life differently. And I think, one of the struggles I've had is being argumentative or being debating and trying to get you to see things my way. And instead of understanding you, trying to get you to understand me and trying to say, no, Naomi, don't think this way, think this way, or no, Naomi, don't feel this way about that, feel this way. And I'm trying to get you to be more like me, but that's the opposite of what the Bible is saying. The Bible is saying, live with your wife with understanding. She's different than you, but you're equal and you need to honor her. And so I think that's been, I've really hopefully tried to listen and to understand and to understand what makes you feel loved, and how can I love you? How can I make you feel like you're the most important person in my life? I don't know if there's anything in that verse that stands out to you when you think about marriage or.
It sounds pretty nice. Yeah, I think that. Is this a non-stop video?
We can edit it.
Yeah, well, that verse is all about, like, how you should treat me, What do you want me to respond to?
Oh, I don't know. I was just going to leave some space there in case you wanted to add something. But I guess Naomi, what makes you feel loved? And I'm not asking you to be like, oh, let me talk about, how great you are. I'm not looking for a compliment, but like, what would be helpful? Like, just marriage advice, or maybe husbands or wives that are listening to this.
Well, I think, as 1 Peter 3:7 pinpoints this idea of, in this relationship especially, and I would dare say it's reciprocal, that you also want to feel understood. It's a human experience to want to feel understood in marriage, in friendship, in whatever season you're in. We all want to feel understood. And I think it is such an interpersonal relationship when you've committed to marriage, to be with someone, to be negotiating every aspect of your life, finances, if you decide to have a family, raising children, mortgages, monthly budgets, how you spend your time, where you go. There's so much negotiation involved, and it's complicated. You're not living for yourself. You are also living in connection to another person. And the number of communication issues that come up is endless. And understanding is a fundamental aspect of communication. We communicate because we are sending a message that we want the other person to say, I am not just listening, but I'm hearing you. And to hear someone means to understand them. And our personalities are wired such where I am not as argumentative, and I don't like to debate like you do. And that's an issue that is personal to us, whether or not you have the same personality. Rob likes to argue, and I don't. Rob likes to debate, and I don't. I want to share and hear that he understands me, that he doesn't just listen only to give me a counterpoint in his debate, and then only to listen and give me a rebuttal in his debate. I want to hear that some sort of message back that says to me, I think he really understands the way I feel, the way I think. And it says in this verse that we're equal partners, that in this relationship that he understands what my strengths are and what my weaknesses are, what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, that he hears who I am in every season of life that we're living, who I've become as a professional working a job, who I've become as a mother, what my heart is for ministry, how my brain works to be healthy. I want to be understood. And I do think it's easier said than done. And it requires a form of listening that I don't think that most people in society are actually really that good at, and as good as they want to believe they are. I don't think that we're doing as much listening, and not even listening, but hearing and understanding. Listening is easier said than done. So I do like to
That's so true.
I do like to be listened to and understood.
Yeah. Yeah, and I try to ask you questions like, how can I love you today?
Yeah.
I haven't asked you that today. How can I love you today?
Well, I'll give you a long list when we're done with this digital campus tonight.
But I love our marriage when we're understanding each other, when we're listening to each other. When I'm not listening to my own thoughts and my own response, and I'm not really listening to you, but when I'm really listening to you, and when I feel like you're really listening to me, and you're listening to what I need and what I want and what makes me feel respected and loved, and you feel like I'm listening to you. And that just makes our communication, it makes our marriage fun, it makes it feel like we're a team, we're for each other. Because marriage can feel lonely sometimes, when you feel like the person's not listening to you, when you feel like they don't understand you. And maybe they're misjudging you, or maybe they're criticizing you or upset with you because they don't get it.
Yeah, and again, just going back to communication, we leave a lot of gaps in our communication. We leave, Our patterns sometimes leave a gap. Confusion, why is Naomi doing that? Why did she buy that? Why are we going here? Why did she say yes to that? Why does Rob think that's what we're doing today? Why does he think that about me? There are so many gaps that we leave, by not communicating, or at least not communicating as well as we think we're communicating. And there's been so many times where we've said to each other, but I told you that, or I said that, or I already explained that.
I texted you that
Yeah.
last week.
My default to Rob is, listen, buddy, I am not your teacher. I've already shared with you the story, the important information, how I feel. If you don't understand by now, you're going to have to go replay that conversation in your head and listen to it 5 more times until you figure out the moral to the story, right?
Yes,
I lose patience a lot trying to communicate and get the impression that he's getting the message. But I do think that one of the spiritual sides of leaving a gap is you do have the enemy of your soul, the enemy of your marriage. We do live in a world where there is a spiritual battle.
It's a spiritual battle, for sure.
And when we leave gaps for each other, I can tell you of a voice that would love to fill them in.
Yep.
The voice of the enemy, filling in my mental thoughts about Rob, kind of stirring up a spirit of contempt or defensiveness, or hiding from him, or, being someone that isn't thinking the best of him. And I can easily listen to that voice and fill in those gaps with thoughts about him that aren't productive or helpful, and they're destructive, and they're going to, ultimately bring our marriage down and cause us to be enemies,
Yeah.
Sleeping with the enemy, right?
Julia Roberts movie.
Yeah.
And when we pray together, I think that definitely helps too.
Yeah, prayer, I think.
We can get to a place of understanding our marriage is a spiritual thing. It's not just a natural thing. And there's spiritual forces at work.
And there's times that understanding doesn't go as far with a hard heart.
Yeah.
That's a good point that you made. You can listen to me and you can communicate that you understand, but there's still an element, and same goes for me when I'm communicating in relationship with you, trying to respect you, trying to love you, all of that. I also have to go before the Lord and ask for a heart that is soft. In the Old Testament, it says that Moses permitted the Israelites to get a divorce because their hearts were hard.
Hard hearts.
Hard heart. And I think about that. I would actually say I think about that on a weekly basis. I know when my heart is getting hard. I know when I'm short, when my fuse is short, when my patience is run out, when I don't have love to give, when I don't look at Rob as worthy of respect or even love, and that is, I think, best resolved through a place of prayer. I often ask.
Softening the heart.
I know. I pray a prayer a woman taught me a long time ago. Lord, soften Rob's heart and change my heart. I don't pray that God changes your heart, because that's sort of selfish. Like, change Rob. I'm doing good. I don't need to change, but he does. I pray, Lord, soften his heart to me. May he have a soft, warm heart to me, be open to me, but I pray that I am the one that would change. I actually don't pray that you would change. I stopped praying that a long time ago, early on in my marriage, and started praying that I would change. And it's not a microwave prayer, and sometimes it is painful and causes me to just die 1,000 deaths and cry 100 tears into my pillow.
Change is hard.
Because I'm dying to myself, in order to change and communicate with you, give you, just as much honor as this verse is telling you to give me. It's not easy. I think about Francis Chan at a conference over Christmas several years ago. He had a really quotable moment where he said, the act of repentance and change is horribly painful, and it's absolutely can drive you to your
death
pillow.
To yourself. It's,
He was just explaining, when you want to change, when you want to be less selfish and more giving in your marriage, you absolutely have to curl up with your pillow and feel the pain and the weight of change. It's not something that is effortless or painless, and I think we would like it to be.
That's a difference between us too. Is I love change, you know,
So
and
you don't-
ambiguity, and
Okay.
you know, that's for some reason my brain is kind of wired that way. But
I'm-
I
but
think there's
I'm
a lot of those
talking-
differences. But
but
when
I'm
you're
talking
but
about-
you're talking about
I'm talking about the change of your heart and
yeah, you're talking
willingness
about like a
to admit when you're wrong, when you are being
Yes.
immature, when you're being straight up sinful, you know.
for sure.
That's the kind of change I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
you're talking about a different change, which matters. I
Yeah.
think that speaks to, you know, when we're approaching a problem or a situation in our marriage and we're trying to love and respect one another. Again, we've had to become students of who each other is. And Rob, you process things and you view the world in a way that I don't view the world. And I view the world in a way that you don't view the world. We were raised by different families. We grew up in different parts of the city. Everything, nature and nurture that's happened to both of us is different.
Yeah.
And that comes out every day in our marriage. And just the way we've been wired, our God-given abilities, our talents, our strengths, our weaknesses, everything about us is different.
Yeah, there's a lot of differences.
Yeah.
So how do we appreciate each other? You know, even though we're different. I mean, early on, you know, I think you're
there's
attracted
like,
to the
you're
differences.
like, or you're like,
You think they're so cute?
Oh my gosh, there's so much about us that's the same.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
know.
we have some common interests and
we have so much in common.
you know, a shared attraction to each other and lots of mutual.
Yeah, we like to do a lot of the same
our
things.
hearts are similar in a lot of ways.
We can talk for hours.
Yeah. However, I think people are far more different from one another than they would realize. And that is definitely part of the beauty and excitement of being in relationship and dating and having boyfriends, girlfriends, and seeing who's out there and how you complement each other. And, you know, the excitement, the attraction, you know, the sexual part, like all of that is like so exciting. And then you end up making your choice and your covenant with one another in front of God, and then you live it out.
Yeah.
And that's when you realize how different you are.
Yeah.
And then you
That's
realize
when the differences start to. And like
Yeah.
you said, when you add kids, and
Yeah.
then, you know, just as you go through life and you have a mortgage and you have all these things you got to pay for and
Yeah,
jobs and business. I mean, I know for me, like I can get so busy that I can neglect you, and I can think because I'm so introverted and I'm totally comfortable not seeing a human being for a week, you know. That I kind of lose sight of, like, oh, you know, I need to spend more time with Naomi.
I think that's a difference in our love languages.
For sure.
We don't share the same love languages. Other couples might, you know,
Yeah.
maybe they got the luck of the draw and they're both quality time.
I wonder what that's
Maybe
like.
not.
I wonder
Yeah,
what that's
I
like
wonder
for
too,
two
like-
extroverted people
Yeah,
and
are
for two
like, you guys just
introverted
really
people.
happy?
And people with the same love languages,
Yeah,
like
are you
physical
always-
touch. Oh,
Yeah, are you
quality
always
time.
hugging?
Like, but you know,
Man.
I think our love is a more mature, spiritual Jesus kind of
Right,
love.
yeah. I
Because
mean, we don't
we have to
to
love in a way that's from the
right.
Lord.
We get extra credit.
Like words of affirmation is like way low for me,
Yeah.
but it's way high for you.
Yeah,
And
so
I've had to really like try to be mindful of like, I need to first of all be very like gentle with my words, and number two, like I really need to think of like, even though I feel like I'm kind of like repeating myself, like to say things like I'm proud of you, I love you, like express how I really feel about you in words
Yeah.
over and over again, even though I'm like, I said that last week, like it hasn't changed, so
Yeah, why would I update my
or
statement?
quality time, you know, really thinking about like, okay, like today's my day off, like I need to do this, and this, and I have school and I have a paper to write, blah, 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 but I really need to think about like, you know, the most important thing I can do is love my wife, like, and spend quality time with her, and, you know, and it
Yeah.
is important to me, but I can get caught up just feeling busy and
Yeah.
forget how important that is.
And I think one way we've overcome is by putting, you know, literally penciling in on our calendars or inputting it into our Google calendars. You know, this is my quality time with my wife. And then I get excited about it.
Yeah,
I
date nights.
I see it coming. You
Yeah.
know, I know when we're going to
When you both have careers, when you're in
Yeah.
school, when you have kids, like
Especially
having that
kids,
weekly
you know.
date night. Because kids, all your free time, kids can take that up, and then we're both very involved in ministry, and I mean, there's just lots of
But
stuff
just
going on.
like, I think intentional planning, which isn't something that we're obsessed with. You know, I have way better planner friends than us, but the plans that we make to love each other, they always pay dividends.
Yes.
You know, you put me on your calendar when I make decisions to do acts of service for you. You know, when I put it
Ooh,
on
I
my
love
calendar.
that. That's the best.
Yeah. So I
Acts
think,
of service.
yeah.
Yes.
Again, I think it keep going back to learning the person that you're married to and learning
And being willing to change. Being willing to
Yeah.
say, okay, I'm not going to try to make this person be who I want them to be, but who do they want me to be? And I'm going to try to honor them in that. So this has been so much fun for talking to you about our marriage. And man, we've learned a lot. We've gone through a lot, and hopefully some of this was helpful to you. If you're married, or if you're single, if you're considering marriage, or wherever you're at in your relationship, wherever you're at in your faith journey, we love you. We're glad that you're tuning in here tonight. I just want to pray a quick prayer for you as we wrap up tonight. God, I just pray that you bless every person watching. Give them wisdom, give them discernment, help them in their relationships, help them in their marriages. If their marriages, bless their marriages. Give them an understanding heart for each other. Help them to live with each other with understanding and with honor and with love. In Jesus' name. Well, have a wonderful night. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday night at our digital campus. And we will see you, hopefully, in the digital lobby.